This is obscene. Let me play this clip for you guys, and you're going to laugh.
CPAC, do you know what that is?
Is this playing out there too?
What is it?
Unfortunately.
What is PAC?
Political Action Committee.
Political Action Committee. Okay. Yeah. It's their big convention every year. It's like corporations have a big convention. They have their big convention. I made jokes about it every year. I can't remember the last time we did it. It goes way back. I remember once calling it the Woodstock for the mentally impaired.
I'd just like to take a quick moment and make sure we put a pin in that. He said, Woodstock for the mentally impaired. That's CPAC. And now enjoy the rest of the clip.
But in years past, it was like the most conservative commentators and senators and governors. And okay, this year, there's a guy, I've heard this name. I don't know who he is, Jack Posobiec. He's doing sort of like
because he's a pro.
Roundtable discussion. You know, it's a convention. They have these things. This is a quote. Welcome to the end of democracy. We are here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it. Am I missing an irony here? Am I missing a joke? Or is it, as it seems now, they are saying the quiet part out loud?
Yeah.
That they are not. This is CPAC. This is Republican, conservative, their big convention. And you have a guy like this and the crowd is loving it. Welcome to the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it. January 6th was good. Now we're going to finish the job. Thoughts?
It's scary.
Thoughts on that?
Bill, that was a joke about Trump making a joke about being a dictator day one in office. That is an ironic take on how the liberal
that was my question. Am I missing the irony?
Conservatives. I think so. Yes, it's a joke.
Really?
But,
He's so embarrassed.
And I think more to the point.
Tim, don't stop it. Play it to the
Bill,
end.
And
Keep your day job, Jack.
That's the worst part. By the way, to keep your day job is the worst part of the whole thing. Because even after he's exposed, he still tries to go, well, your joke sucked. And you're like, dude, you didn't get it. You got it totally wrong. And you should feel bad about yourself.
But it's worse than that. I think the response from me is, Bill, quit your day job. Okay, you're past your prime.
Give Jack a show.
It's a huge blunder. But I'll tell you what happened is Jack Posobiec made a very obvious joke where he was mocking the liberal press's interpretation of January 6th. He was laughing while he said it. The audience laughed, and then CNN ran it as if it was a real quote without showing the clip. You get a guy on TV being like, and now they're saying, did you see this? The guy saying they want to overthrow democracy and that they want to finish the job. They didn't get done on January 6th. Then some research intern for Bill Maher writes it down on a card and hands it to him. Bill Maher never saw the clip, never Googled the clip, reads it and goes, am I missing something here? They're just saying the quiet part out loud. And Batya Ungar-Sargon goes, it's a joke. And he goes, oh, well, it's a stupid joke.
Well, and Batya is great. I mean, shout out to Batya.
She's great. Batya's fantastic.
Yeah.
2 quick points right here, okay? And number one, it goes exactly to the point that you were just making about how people who watch shows like this are familiar with the progressive argument, because how could they not be? It's the dominant
we make fun
argument.
Of them all the time.
Right. We couldn't not be. And by the way, if you don't believe, Jonathan Haidt has actually done academic studies on this, where the left-wingers will they cannot tell you what the right-wing argument is, whereas the right-wingers can tell you what the left-wing argument is. And this just proves the point that just imagine what a caricature you would have to have in your mind, that even if someone were to say to you, hey, someone at CPAC got up and said January 6th was great and we're going to go further and we're going to overthrow democracy, you'd be like, my eyebrows raised by that? That doesn't sound like that could have been what happened. Number 2, just a personal story very quickly about Jack, who I do not know very well. But I will say this. I had this, so about last year at some point, there was a video of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Again, this is back before all the Israel stuff, when I really liked him. And there was this video that was totally taken out of context of him. When he made his speech that he was announcing he was running for president, he talked about the war in Ukraine. And he basically he had a disclaimer up front and then talked about why the war was a total sham and why we shouldn't be supporting them. And people just clipped the disclaimer and didn't play the second part. And that it was making it seem like he was supporting the war in Ukraine, whereas really he came out totally against the thing. And Jack tweeted the clipped portion. And I quote tweeted him, and I was like, this is totally taken out of context. This is not at all what happened, and here's the full version. And Jack, who I've never met before, direct messaged me and went, dude, I got it wrong. I fell for it. I saw the full version. You're absolutely right. He deleted his tweet. He retweeted my quote tweet and then said, Dave was right. I got this wrong. I'm going to delete my tweet and leave this one up here because reflects accurately what he said. So when we're all wrong sometimes, but the thing to do is just go, oops. Okay, I just kind of made a jerk out of myself. I got that wrong. It's okay. But Bill Maher's reaction is, well, don't quit your day job. Like, nah, dude, come on. You got this wrong.
He got caught with his pants
just admit it.
But
that's okay. Just admit it.
Everybody got it wrong, and they wanted to get it wrong. I mean, Bill Maher wanted to get it wrong.
No.
And so did everybody else.
For Bill, it's worse than CNN. With CNN and MSNBC, they know what they're doing. Bill Maher is sleeping till 2, smoking pot. He wakes up and they go,
Chelsea Handler and Seth Rogen.
Yeah, then they hand him his cards and he goes, oh, wow, someone said that, huh? And then he goes on his show and goes, wow, can you believe they said this? And you see how embarrassed he looks. And when she's like, that was a joke about Donald Trump saying he was going to be a dictator for a day, and how the liberal media responds, and Bill's like, well, that's what I was asking. I was asking if there was an irony there. I mean, it's a stupid joke anyway.
See, it makes me think his staff is like trying to keep him from the clips, and they're like, just read the card, no context, don't look at Twitter, don't look at anything, don't look at this at all, because there is someone malicious saying, oh my gosh, this quote is so crazy if we say it like it's serious.
He might fire somebody over this.
He should. Yeah. They set him up to look like an idiot.
But it's
otherwise
his fault.
He's just an idiot.
Dude, you have to be so uninformed and so not engaged with what the other side is actually saying for you to even, like, if you got that card, you'd be like, wait, hold on. They actually said that? Like, that doesn't make sense.
If someone came to me and said that, like, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks came out in a show screaming, saying Donald Trump should be sent to a Soviet gulag so he can spend time with his Russian buddies, I'd be like, was he joking? Because even though I disagree with the guy, that's so over the top that I wouldn't immediately assume he was being literal that there's Soviets in Russia right now.
And if someone said to you, they go, no, he was being literal. Take this on the show. You'd go, I'm going to have to see this clip before I go on my show and declare that this was literal.
When people told me that Keith Olbermann claimed to urinate from his eyes, I did not believe that he would actually say that.
Well, that one.
And so I
that
looked.
was actually sort of amazing, though, wasn't it?
And so I looked up his tweets, and he didn't literally say that he urinates from his eyes.
Yeah, but he did imply it.
Someone said, you're crying. He says, those aren't tears, that's urine. And people went, so you're pissing from your eyes. And it's like,
what does that even mean?
Why would that be better?
I was sort of joking that someone had peed on Keith Olbermann.
Well, look.
Again, none of it is good. There's no good spin for that.
There's no good scenario where you have a bunch of pee on your face.
Let's be real. When I was first told for the first time that Cenk Uygur made a defense on his show for engaging in intercourse with animals, I did not believe it. And I'm like, come on. And then I watched the clip to verify it, and it is correct. Cenk Uygur, at some time, I think 10 years ago, made a full-throated defense of people having intercourse with animals.
It was a different time.
Yeah.
It's the thing, there were different norms.
And I don't know the point he was trying to make, but even his whole staff groaned or whatever. I'm not trying to bring this all up and just drag Cenk again. My point is, there have been many absurd claims that have been made, and we fact check them. We get the clips, we get the receipts. But this is, I think, indicative of it's an example of how this culture war happens. We're always sharing clips and memes and photos. They're just saying things and agreeing with each other. They'll just say it. Bill Maher will say a thing happened, and they'll all just laugh. I mean, look at the reaction. Who's the guy? Who's the other guy? I don't know who the other guy sitting there right there. He looks familiar. Who is that?
He does look familiar, but I didn't
Ryan. What's his?
either.
Who is that? Tim Ryan, right?
Yeah.
I thought that's what it was. And he's just like, it's scary. It's like, my dude, even if, like, Batya clearly knows what the segment was and understands.
But Batya always knows what's going on. She's very smart.
But that's my point. She knows.
Yeah.
If I was sitting there and someone made the claim that a leftist called for burning down the White House or something, I'd be like, what? Like, Cenk Uygur really say that? I'm going to have to check that one because I don't know if I believe that. Show me the clip. Mm-hmm. Like, if I was Tim Ryan there and Bill Maher said they want to overthrow democracy, I'm like, isn't that a little on the nose, Bill? Sounds kind of like he's being sarcastic.
Well, look, I mean,
and why is he reading off a card? Why don't they just clip?
Look, we've been kind of...
They're not as advanced as shows like us.
Oh, I understand.
Look, the United States of America, for the last 20 plus years, okay, has been living in what Glenn Greenwald called at one point an emergency legal climate, right? Yeah. So when you think about in the wake of September 11th, they passed things like the Patriot Act. And even in the immediate wake of 9/11, the Patriot Act was still considered somewhat controversial. There were still some people who were like, wait a minute, we're kind of signing away very basic constitutional protections. And so what they said was like, oh, there'll be like a sunset clause in this, and it will expire in a few years. And then Congress will have to come back and argue that the emergency is still going on, and that's why we need to extend it. But it just gets extended. Sometimes it's put under a different name, but it still just gets extended. The TSA is still here. The Department of Homeland Security is still here. We're in this constant kind of emergency governing mode. And in order to do this, there always has to be a constant threat that's built up. Well, and that's why Scott's response immediately is like terrifying. Because in the same way that they had to say that, like, listen, Saddam Hussein is best friends with Al-Qaeda and he's about to give them the weapons of mass destruction that he doesn't have. You know, like, he wasn't friends with them and he didn't have the weapons. This was all lies, but they would make that threat. And then they would always create whatever the threat is, that Gaddafi's about to go genocidal, or Assad's killing his own people, or Putin's going to reconstitute the Soviet Union, and in this case, the threat that they're trying to use is January 6th represents this attempt of the right half of America to overthrow democracy. And the commonality in all of these threats is that they're all pure lies. None of them exist. None of them are actually threats to the United States of America. But they need this in order to kind of justify how even you see, because if you watch Bill Maher sometimes, he'll rail against wokeism, he'll rail against the insanity of the COVID restrictions and what California's come to and all of this, and he'll get big applause in his audience, but then it always returns back to, but this other side is such a bigger threat. They have to keep that going, or there's no way they can justify their authoritarianism.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.